Week 2 college football recap. I had a good weekend. I just got back from Las Vegas a couple hours ago. Going to show you the results. So here are the results of the Week 2 college football plays that I made that I showed you on my Week 2 video. Overall was up 0.55 units for the weekend. 1.42 units of profit on the money line, minus 0.87 on the spread. I picked 50% against the spread with 2 pushes. So overall, it was a winning weekend. A little bit misleading because a lot of these lines changed between Wednesday when I filmed the video and Friday when I actually made the plays. Now, for my YouTube channel, I'm always going to use the plays that I actually gave out on the video. I'm never going to say, well, when I got to Las Vegas, a lot of the lines changed and I made these plays and count that as my record. I'm never going to do that. That's what touts do. I'm going to be completely transparent with my record. So based on the plays that I posted on my Week 2 video on Thursday that I recorded on Wednesday, I won 0.55 units for the week. However, I did get to Las Vegas late on Friday. I didn't get there in time to bet the Boise State game, which I would have if I got there in time, but thankfully a traffic jam prevented me from being able to make that bet, so I didn't absorb that loss. I also was able to get the Auburn line at minus 17, which ended up being a win instead of a push for me. There are also a couple plays that I made that I did not have on the Wednesday video because the lines changed to where they weren't a profitable bet on Wednesday, but they were on Friday. One of those being Maryland. I made a play on Maryland. I also made plays on Pittsburgh and UConn, Clemson, and the Western Kentucky money line. Now, out of all those extra plays I made, you're probably not surprised that only Clemson was a loser there and the others won, but that's just how it played out. But I'm not including those in my record on this sheet right here because that would be misleading. Since I didn't actually post the plays on Wednesday, I'm not going to include them. But I had a better weekend in Las Vegas than the spreadsheet shows because of that. Going down the line, there are some bad beats in there. Clemson, even though it's not on this sheet, I did play Clemson at minus 16, and Texas A&M scored a touchdown on the last play of the game to cover. That was a backbreaker. But not only that, but the Kentucky game and the Penn State game and the Wyoming game all featured the same situation as the Clemson game where the other team had the ball near the goal line throwing passes in the end zone at the end where if they would have scored it would have covered, but thankfully only the Clemson game was the one where they actually scored, although I had to sweat all those out. The Tennessee money line was a bad beat. That was a tough one. That was a backbreaker. But with every bad beat comes good beats. The Colorado spread and money line was a good beat. That looked dead in the water for a long time. Mississippi State, that looked like it was going to be a push. And basically the only way it would have covered is if they got a turnover, and they got the turnover they needed. Southern Miss threw a pick. Mississippi State ran it back to like the 20, and then they scored a few plays later to get the late cover, so that was a good beat. Penn State was another good beat. Now, if I didn't bet this game, I would have been upset because James Franklin still had Penn State bombing away, even though the game was easily in hand at the end. They scored a touchdown on a long bomb pass at the end to cover that one. I was only okay with it because I had bet on Penn State. Otherwise, I would have thought that was a little classless. The same thing happened in the Kentucky game. Kentucky was up by 14 with under a minute to go, and they had the ball near the goal line. All they had to do was knee the clock out, but instead they tried to score, which they did, to cover, which was good for me, although I thought it would have been classless if I didn't have a bet on the game. Now, Eastern Michigan, though, got the ball back with like 50 seconds left and drove the length of the field and was throwing passes in the end zone towards the end there, and I had to really sweat that one out. They got really close to scoring there at the end. So overall, it was a profitable week. You can never complain when you profit, but it could have been better if you waited to make these plays on Friday instead of Wednesday when I came out with them. And that's the thing. I record the videos once a week. Obviously, I'm not going to record a video every single day of the week based on what the lines are that day. I don't have the time to do that. But what I do is I run my model twice a day, if not more, and am always looking for plays that might pop up that wouldn't have popped up the previous time I ran my model because lines change. Maryland being a good example. When I recorded my video on Wednesday, Maryland was not a profitable play. But when I reran my model on Friday night after the lines had moved, my model was pointing towards Maryland where it wasn't before. I jumped on them, they won. Same with Pitt. When I recorded the video on Wednesday, they were at 5.5. But when I got to Las Vegas on Friday night, they were at 4. So I played Pitt because that line change influenced my model enough to bet on them. I'm constantly running my model looking for those line changes to see if there's any new plays to make. So even though I only record one video a week, if you have a model, you need to be running it constantly to find those edges and find those new opportunities. So season 2 date, I'm down 3.09 units on spread bets. I'm up 2.05 units on moneyline bets for a total of minus 1.04 units on the season. So still in the red, but hopefully week 3 we can really get the wheels turning. I always call week 0 and week 1 the dart throwing week, because you're really hoping and praying that your modeling is correct, because 100% of your plays that you're making on week 0 and week 1 are based on your modeling preseason predictions. Week 2, you start to have some data in there from games that are played, but I call it no man's land week, because you don't know how much influence to give that one game that has been played into your model compared to your preseason ratings. But week 3 every year is usually when I start to hit my stride, because you have enough data now to really start going off of. Now, going on to total cum results, the blender is up 400 units on the year. The ATM is down 10.7 units. That's not good. Combo is even Stevens at minus 20. That's for the margin. For the cover, it's the same. The blender, cover, and margin are the same algorithm. So really the only differential between margin and cover are on the ATM and the dollar amounts. And cover combo is actually at 4.3 units of profit, which is the most profitable among the spectrum right here. Now for money lines, like I said, I never play anything minus 300 or higher, so I'm going to filter those out. And money lines are all in the negative, but ATM, as always, this is always the case every year, is the best performer, and that's no different this year at minus 3.85 units. Now for standard error, these columns right here represent each team's score predictions, and ATM, surprisingly, is the most accurate at predicting each team's score, even though it's minus 10.8 units on the spread. And for standard margin error, so this one is measuring how well the margin is predicted, the combo at 12.01 with ATM not too far behind. And ATM is doing better than Blender, even though Blender is doing much better against the spread. We'll probably see some of that even out going forward, which is a good sign. Even though ATM is down 10 units predicting against the spread, it's still doing pretty well on the standard error, so there's going to be some regression to the mean there. So that's an indicator that the ATM is just experiencing some outliers right now and some variance, but should be doing better going forward. So running the report builder, we're going to run it based on Blender being greater than 0, and we see a peak ROI of any time the Blender value is 1.47 or higher at 6.7% and 4.3 units of profit. So not much change from last week. We're still going to key off that number at about 1.5 or higher. So ATM actually has a peak ROI of 21.7% of 5.2 units of profit right here at 3.6 value or higher. So even though ATM is down 10.87 overall, whenever the ATM value is 3.6 or higher, there's actually a positive ROI there, so we need to remember that going forward as well. And then for combo, combo, whenever the value is 2.4 or higher, we have an ROI of 6.3. And then when combo and Blender are combined, both greater than 0, we have a peak ROI of 7.1%, 1.47. That's probably going to be our key once again in week 3 for spread bets. Now for money line, what I do is I do it on here, so I look for the highest value. So it looks like we have a peak of 5.73 right here, and that number is going to be 2.4%, 2.356% to be exact. So going forward in week 3, our key for money lines is going to be 2.356%. Good to know. So that wraps up week 2 for my college football betting model. Let's hope that week 3, which has been the past 2 years, week 3 is where I've always really exploded out of the gate. Let's hope that week 3 makes it 3 years in a row for a good week. I'll be back with my week 3 picks probably on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and I'll see you then.